Yes, I think it should be clear that we're very close to Melkor calling,
which would not end well. Saying something about that, and then I lost it.
Oh, I think I was just saying that Melkor is this close to calling all of his people as backup.
Yes.
And when that happens, something is going to completely fall apart. And Manwë knows that. Manwë recognizes that they need to get out of there right now.
Yes.
So that's why he's telling Olle to back down and get out. He realizes that it's just going to get worse.
Yes.
But Myron sees that as weakness and fleeing the scene.
Right.
So Myron's disappointed. Kermo is also fairly disappointed that Manwë would let someone
talk to him
without any consequence. But yeah, they get out of there.
Yes.
At this point, do we cut back to our two fellows in the woods?
I feel like the pacing is a problem here.
Yes, it is.
Because if we do...
Do you want to do the whole incident in the woods without cutting back and forth to it?
I'm thinking that we kind of have to, because if we don't, we lose the momentum there.
Yeah.
I mean, unless we cut away from them at a moment of like crisis, like you don't know which way this is going to go down. That's the only way I can see not losing that momentum.
Yeah.
Because we're coming down from a climax, and we come a little bit down from that climax, and then we go back right up into a climax. Like it
doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. The other option is to cut right when Manwë walks out of their private conversation.
Yeah.
To cut there.
Yes.
Do the Beast in the Woods come back to the throne room conversation we just did? It's a lot of cutting back and forth.
Yeah. Well, that's done. That's the way it's typically done.
Right. That's why I'm not opposed to that.
Because we in television shows these days, you're very rarely in a scene for more than 5 minutes at a time.
Right.
But here's my problem. My problem is that we have to get right back into being emotionally invested in that scene again. When you come back into a scene, there's got to be like a slow build up of the emotional tension when you come back in. Unless you left at a pinnacle of tension, but then you have to come into a scene with an equal level of tension to kind of.
They're fighting a T-Rex. I think that's enough tension.
Yeah. Well, but then it has to. Okay. But then it has to come out of the woods in order to be there. You follow?
No. Because we cut the first time where they heard it coming and they're like, "Here it comes," and then we went into Manwë and Melkor talking, which is a fine transition.
Yeah.
Then actually, I guess went back to the throne room. Now we're leaving Manwë and Melkor's conversation that just ramped up.
Mm-hmm.
And going to a T-Rex charging out of the woods. Is that an acceptable?
Well, that's the thing, and it's a different type of tension too.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't give you the same. It doesn't give you the same feeling.
Yeah. I guess you want to anticipate the monster coming out of the woods a little bit more than having it jump right out at you.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, if he's already there, if it's already there, if the monster's already there, then we don't really have that problem where we have to go right into action sequence that we weren't in before.
Yeah, my natural inclination is to do the entire hunting scene as one scene and then cut back into the other stuff. But that's not the way TV is done. So I think I'm wrong.
Well, don't do that. Here's the thing. we need to find. I feel like we need to find a breaking point in the fight scene.
Okay.
If we find a breaking point in the fight scene.
So we cut away too soon the first time, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, so we just need to play that out a little bit longer before we go back to a couple Maiar hanging out in the throne room.
Right.
Okay.
So, like, we see the fighting taking place for like a short period of time. It doesn't have to be very long.
Mm-hmm.
But it has to be long enough that when we come back, they're basically in the same exact spaces that they were before, but maybe in like a little break where when we cut back to them,
mm-hmm.
You basically, like, there's a break in the fighting and Tulkas turns into Orome, and we go right back to that note from before where he's like, yeah, you're right, this is fun, like something, something goofy like that.
Yeah. Because at first it should feel like cutting back to the middle of the fight scene, like, ooh, is anyone going to get hurt? And Tulkas is like, this is so much fun. There's nothing like this in Valinor.
Right, yeah. So because Tulkas appreciates the contest, he appreciates the rush of adrenaline that's involved in that, and that's not wrong. Right.
It's a little goofy, though, because he's taking on a T-Rex with his bare hands.
Yes.
I mean, let's wrestle a T-Rex. Yeah. Oh, wait, they don't have arms.
Right. I'm thinking of Giganotosaurus, by the way.
Which one is that?
That's the bigger one.
Big one. That one. Okay.
It's like
gigantic in its name. Yeah,
yes,
that one.
Yeah. It's about 20% larger than a T-Rex.
Exactly.
With non-stupid looking arms.
Yeah, I would prefer non-stupid looking arms on whatever we do. Although, part of this is that the beast should look a little bit deformed in some way. Something should be a little wrong with it. Not as blatant as we're going to see later. Like we're going to see later where Yavanna runs into a beast that's clearly messed up. But there should be something a little off about this one. Maybe a dinosaur that has a slightly weird design to it, and you're like, wait, that doesn't really work.
What if we get Indominus Rex?
Which one's that?
That's from Jurassic World.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. I haven't really seen Jurassic World yet.
Okay. Basically, it's like a slightly bigger T-Rex that's got weirdly longish arms with long claws at the end of it, and it's white. Yeah, but that's not really. Made up, yeah. It is made up, that's true. But like something would that help where we need to be? Like if there was some feature of it that's exaggerated.
Yes. I mean, I was more thinking of something with like Stegosaurus plates on its back that shouldn't have Stegosaurus plates on its back. Mm-hmm. It's something kind of subtle, like, wait, that's a little weird, I wonder, but not like totally
well, here's
wrong.
The thing, like if we're not careful, it could just look like we don't know what a dinosaur looks like,
which is okay. I mean, because this is Middle Earth, but yeah.
What I'm saying is like it's got to look intentional, otherwise it looks like we just don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess I'm up in the air on what that looks like for me right now. But something about it should be a little off, and it should be intentionally so. But yeah, Tulkas is having fun. Orome is also enjoying the contest, but more concerned with where this thing came from and what it's doing here.
Yeah.
Like, he has a slightly more, long picture.
Right.
Approach to life. And Tulkas is like, this is fun.
Like maybe he can say something to the effect of, yeah, it is, but they weren't this big before.
Okay. Yeah, just something to be a clue of like something has changed, something's a little off. That would be fine. Right. All right, so fight plays out. Are we going to see the fight all the way to the end then at this point?
Okay. Now again, we got to think about the tension level here. Because now we're going to go into a point where like the entire universe almost breaks down.
Right.
It may not come across, like people may not get that, But that's really where we're at.
We can have Manway's conversation with Varda at towards the end, after when he tells her how this all went.
Yeah.
Explain that where he thought it was headed.
Right. And his concern isn't necessarily like we have to make sure that it plays on screen. That his concern isn't for him and Owley, and it's not. He's not concerned for their safety. He's concerned because the whole thing almost completely breaks down.
Yeah. Yeah. Which would be why he's never going to do this again.
Right. Yes. He sends Aonway to try to get him to come there.
Right, but he's not going to go himself again.
Right.
Because he saw how badly that went.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that can be the point of that conversation. But back to this. Yeah. We're going to switch into Manway entering the throne room and Melkor storming out after him.
Right.
So the tension should be pretty high, but understated. It's people yelling at each other. There's no weapons drawn.
Yeah. So how do we do that? Like, 'cause I'm reticent to have everything fine with Tulkas and Orome at the moment that we cut to them. That we cut to that. You know?
Right. So, okay. Let's say they kill the monster.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right, we're done. And then, like, there's another noise, and it's like a second one.
Okay. Well,
or like a pack of them or something. Like something where they thought they were done their little fight, and then there's
and it escalates.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. But I want to think about something. I want to think about a way to kind of connect this back to Melkor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I know this is going to be very, very difficult to do this in a way that's not super tenuous.
Well, it's probably going to be tenuous, but let's see what you got.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Okay, so if they defeat the monster, Orome. Because here's the thing: like if we can point this to something sinister, then we can go back into the throne room and have that almost fall apart, and it'll work.
Okay.
Okay.
So there has to be a sinister note.
Right. So
they've ended the fight. They've got a dead monster, and what's your sinister note?
Okay. Well, let's see. Let's see about this. Is Ulmo a tower? Like, does Ulmo have a tower? A Tumno, sorry. Does a Tumno have a tower element to it?
It certainly can if we need one.
Okay.
I mean, so far all we've got is this giant hall.
Right. Yes.
The tower on the giant hall, and it'll look like a minaret or something.
Right. The reason I'm asking this is if it's something that can be seen from enough of a distance. Awesome. So
I'm really not sure why I have to refresh constantly to make this work. But.
I don't know. It seems to depend on, like, there's got to be things that are outside of our control that are involved with this.
Yes. Okay, so they have the dead animal, and Orome is going to look to the tower of Utumno in the distance.
What I'm suggesting is that maybe he, like, Tulkas isn't elbowing Orome. Tulkas goes to elbow Orome and realize he isn't there. The Orome, and then we cut to Orome fairly distant now. Or we don't even have to cut. We can actually, like, zoom through the forest, some place fairly distant, because he's backtracking this thing.
He wants to see where the monster came from.
Right.
Okay.
And so he comes to an opening, like on the top of a hill, right? He comes to an opening on the top of the hill, and now this isn't completely concrete evidence of this, but he's looking down the track of pushed aside trees and all that. And it looks like it definitely looks like it could have come from Autumno.
Okay. That is good, because we can't have definitive evidence yet.
Right.
Because it's too early for that. But we should definitely have clues and sinister nibs and things like that. And I think Horror is a tracker. He should be able to figure this out. And I'm pretty sure I could track the path of a T-Rex through the forest. Like,
and maybe at the bottom of the hill he sees more.
He sees what?
Maybe at the bottom of the hill he sees more of them.
Ah. Okay, so there's a whole herd of them now.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to engage with them right now because that would that's another whole 40 minutes of action sequence right there. We're not going to do that.
Right.
But he sees them down there.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks up at he kind of looks back up the line. Mm-hmm. And the camera pans up and there's a Autumno up there, which we were just at, so we know what it looks like.
Right.
All right, and it's in the distance. It's not clear, it's not clear and condemning evidence, but
yeah, okay. I like that. I think that's good enough. Now, is it okay to cut from that to the front scene?
Yeah, because we've now painted this picture of like this is gonna get bad. And now we might, when the fight almost starts to break out, we might be suspecting that anything could pop out of a door at any moment at this point.
Yeah, that's the way it should be done. Because the thing is, if it's just Melkor saying mean things about Manwë, how scary is that?
Right.
Not very. So, like, there should definitely be an undercurrent that these threats are real.
Right.
Like, and he's not necessarily threatening him so much as
he's got
trying to
stuff in his back pocket.
Right. That he knows he can bring out whenever he needs to.
Right.
And I don't know if we want to do this or not, but when Ole starts shouting at Melkor, should we have a shot of the Balrogs in the basement looking up?
I have a counter proposal. Okay. What if we see? So we've seen the door handles. We've seen the doors in the Autumno. What if we see a shot of a door handle, double doors, right? Mm-hmm. Double doors. There's a crack in the, between the doors where we can see the light through it, and we just see a giant shadow and flame hand grab a hold of a door handle, and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, something to show that this party's about to get crashed.
Right.
And that when Manwë says it's time to go, he means something.
It's time to go.
Yeah. Like there's an actual threat there. Because telling people after the fact, oh, by the way, that could have been really bad, doesn't generate enough tension.
Yeah.
That's not how you do storytelling. You don't say, oh, by the way, we could have almost died back there. Yeah. So you have to show the audience at the time that there's a threat.
Right.
So somehow we have to show the Balrogs. Somehow we should tie in Orome's hunt to that. So yeah, I like that we're at least trying to bring that together.
So we see that Manwë is able to, to talk Ole down, and they leave. Mm-hmm. Where do we go now? Do we go back to Valinor immediately?
Yeah. I mean, what else we can
do? So we have a slow fade out as they're leaving Autumno, slow fade in back in Valinor, so that we know that the time has passed. Mm-hmm. Because if it's a quick cut, then there's no sense that that's happened.
Well, except we don't have to switch to them in Valinor. We can go back to Yavanna and Nienna.
Right, but I feel like we're gonna see them there in fairly short order. So if we do a more gentle cut, it won't feel as jarring.
Right, and I'm not at all opposed to that. I was just suggesting that we not like show them in Autumno and then show
no,
the next scene
no. Clearly,
them again in Valinor. So I was like, let's switch to new characters and then go back to Manwë.
Okay.
So is Yavanna and Nienna where we go next?
Yes. I feel like
okay before we resolve anything with.
So this is where Yavanna gets the idea for the trees. But I can't. I'm trying to think of a way to make this conversation happen in a way that it's not super short, and we have to immediately cut to them actually doing it.
Well, we would switch to the fallout from everything else. So go back to Manwë.
Right, but what I'm saying is that means that this scene between, like, Yavanna can't just go to Nienna and say, "Hey, I got an idea, but I'm going to need your help with it," and then we cut to aftermath of visit to horribleness in Autumno. You follow?
Yeah. I know.
It needs to have some kind of, that scene has to have some kind of meat to it. So, how is that going to happen?
Okay. Well, last time we had Nienna approach Yavanna, right?
Yeah. And
this time we should have Yavanna approach Nienna.
Absolutely.
So where is Nienna? If you want more meat to the scene, we can make Nienna be somewhere. For instance, we should probably introduce in this episode that there's people that are still needing to be healed in Lorien.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we've brought them there, they're resting or whatever. So maybe Nienna has been visiting with them. Peaceful Gardens of Lorien. Yavanna comes to talk to her, and because we're going to show them being healed when the trees are right.
Right. Yes.
So we need to remind people that there's people who need healing.
I have to go back a bit.
Okay.
Because I realized that we didn't really wrap up. Like, do we want the three Maiar to have something to say to each other as we're leaving Autumno or not? I completely forgot about this.
I thought it was just going to be reactions.
Okay. I'm good with that. I just wanted to,
Yeah, make sure that we wrapped everything up. Because I felt like the whole point of their conversations would be what they say to each other when the Valar aren't around.
Yes.
And we can revisit that in Valinor if we want, but while Alle and Manwë are standing right there, like, we don't need them to be chiming in with their comments to each other.
They're clearly unimportant opinions.
Right. That's not quite what I meant, but yes.
They're not running this show. No, I know. Okay.
And Olerin belongs to Irmo, so they could be in Lorien too, having their...
Who? What?
Olerin would come back to Lorien. So if he has anything to say, he could tell Irmo what happened.
Yeah, I like it.
So we get his report on what went down instead of Kuramo and Myron.